Well, hi guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my good friend Jackie. Say hello to the world.
Hello.
We just really wanted to take this space to just talk about a lot of things dealing with the heart. This channel is really dedicated to talking about relationships, value, heartbreak, disappointments, your purpose, and overcoming just pain that you've been through. So the past few videos, we've been talking about value. We've been talking about overcoming insecurities. And we as women deal with that on another level. We look in the magazine like, well, she's perfect. I need to go ahead and get some things fixed. Let me go ahead and do some adjustments. Quick addiction here, addiction there. And then you're still not happy because then you're like, you know what? I forgot about a couple other things. Let's go back. And we're so hard on ourselves. And I really think it's society. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah. Comparison.
It's so
the comparison trap it's lethal. I mean,
it is. Social media is so bad about that. I mean, I love it. And it's also a love and hate relationship because you can like share your dreams. You can share encouraging things. And then you also got your lovely people that love you. And then you have your haters that love to jump in.
Oh, yeah.
They love to come on there and tell what they think. So we just wanted to, we talked about heartbreak. We talked about value and how God sees you so valuable to him, but it was because of the price that he paid for us. You know, we see worth of things like gold based on the value that it's being paid for, like how much someone will pay for it. That determines the value of gold. It's the same thing with us. Jesus Christ, he died on the cross for us, and he said that we're good enough. He said that we're valuable. And he paid a price that no one else is willing to. I mean, no guy's going to come in and lay down his life and take a bullet. I don't care how many songs say that. It is not true. They're not doing it.
Yeah.
They're not going to come in and lay their life down for you. But Jesus did. I love that. He's not talk. He is all action.
That's right.
We love the people that follow through. We love a good follow through.
Yes.
And this segment, we just want to kind of talk more about, you know, we talked about value. We talked about building trust. And so we just want to kind of talk about restoration, second chances. You know, maybe you've been through the grinder. Maybe you've been out of and in so many bad relationships that made you feel like you weren't enough.
Yeah.
And where does restoration begin? How does that kind of come into place? And we talked about God's the author of that. He's the author of restoration. And I know you have some good things to share on restoration, but just there was a good scripture, I think it was in 1 Samuel, just about restoration and God really giving us that second chance in our lives. What are some things in your heart? Just like where has God kind of restored some things for you? I know you've been through some things and God is just like coming in and restoring, and he's just healed your heart of things, insecurities we both have been through as women.
Yes.
I should go through it too. We're not ignoring that part, but God just comes in and restores things that are broken.
Yeah.
And I love that.
No one's immune to the comparison things that we see on a daily basis from social media. And especially if you have walked through some things like I shared with you last time you had me on here that I had walked through divorce.
Yeah.
I had told myself for years, because I grew up in a great home. My parents, divorce does not run in my family.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was always a given that will never be me.
Yeah.
And there's a stigma around it too, that if you walk through that, you really can't recover from it. It's just, that's a major failure. Especially, I like how, you know, the videos you and your dad have done about being performance minded, to have that kind of a failure on your track record of relationships. That was a lot for me to deal with, that failure, because I struggled with the performance prison as well that your dad shared about. For years. And really, sometimes it can come from a good place because we want to be excellent in whatever we do. And, you know, relationships we're in, you don't enter them in, you know, you don't get to the altar and say, well, this is going to be the best 7 years of my life, and then we'll see where it goes from here. It doesn't happen like that. So when you have that kind of failure that happens, you know, it's really hard to deal with. And I think that's why a lot of people, they get stuck in this cycle of feeling like, I'm not good enough because I walked through this failure. I'm not good enough because society sees me as a single parent or
Yeah.
a divorcee or whatever the case may be. And it all comes from when we put our identity in what other people say and the validation that comes from that. They
That's
will
so
always
good.
disappoint us. If we're putting our identity and our validation in what man says about us, we'll always fall short of their expectations. And that's why it's so important to put our trust and our identity in what God is, who he says we are in him.
I love that.
How much he just loves us because we're his.
Yeah.
And I really like that scripture that your dad had shared in the other video that I wanted to touch on too, is that Ephesians 1:4, that before the very foundation of the world, before it was even created, God had a meeting with Jesus and he said, this is what needs to happen for all of my, hopefully all of my people to make a decision to be with me forever. Are you willing to lay down your life? And Jesus said, yes. That took place before you even came into this world.
Yeah.
And so when we start to realize that value, that Jesus loved us even at our darkest, it says in Romans 5, even at our darkest, he decided to sacrifice his life on the cross, knowing that we may never make the decision to give our heart to him. He still laid down his life for us. Knowing that kind of value and how much God sees us, that we didn't have to do anything to earn it.
Yeah. I love
that he just
that.
loves us as is.
Well, he's not looking at us as a check mark and then there's an X. Like, wow, you really messed up here, girl. You got like another 20 years to make up for that. He's not looking at our life like that. I think we do, because that's how we measure ourselves, performance, like checks and balances. Here's a good thing. Oh, there's a negative. There's another good and there's a negative. God looks at our heart and he sees potential. He sees where he wants to take us. He sees us as absolutely valuable. And so his mindset is completely different.
Yeah.
He's not looking at us through this huge, really just critical view. He's looking at us with eyes of love and forgiveness. And I think that's where restoration comes. God knows we're going to mess up. He knows we're going to make mistakes. He knows that he can give us a perfect plan and we're going to really mess that thing up.
Yeah.
We could go way off track from it. But he still has a plan. He still has a plan of redemption for us, where he wants to restore what's been broken. And I love that he did that in really both of our lives, where we dealt with insecurity so hard. I mean, I've shared in previous videos where I wouldn't go to the store without makeup. It was a thing. It didn't matter if it was Walmart. I wasn't going. Like, I was gonna have some makeup on. I just wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't let anyone see me because I was so petrified of the way I looked without it, that I just had this really crazy view of myself. And God just took me through that journey of healing, of restoration, of just giving me a completely different perspective and saying, you know, it doesn't matter how many times you messed up in your past or how many times I really shut God out. He had another plan of redemption for me. And he paid that price to say, you're valuable, you're worth everything to me. Even if we don't choose him in return, he's still going to keep reaching out with love. Oh, and that like gets me every time, because I've shut him out several times just because of things that took place that I didn't understand, things that were out of my control. And that concept of God's in control, you know, all the good and the bad, and it's not true. There's good in this world, there's evil. And we have to remember that. When negative things happen to good people, it's because of negative situations and negative choices people make. But even though those things take place, God still says, I have a way out. I can still restore. I can still turn your life around like you never made a mistake. And I love that.
And that verse in 1 Samuel, it talks about that man looks out the outside appearance and how things look on the surface level. But the Lord looks at things from the heart level. So things that we don't see, he sees. And so he sees the road that you've been on. He sees the mistakes that you've made, and he still loves you. He does not love you any less. You're not disqualified from your purpose just because you've made a couple mistakes. Your purpose does not have an expiration date just because you missed it in an area or you walked a tough road. You're still very much, so much valuable to the Lord. You're just as valuable to him as if you had never done it, as if you had never made those mistakes. And that's what I love about it, is when we start to spend time in the Word and just learning about what he says about us and how he feels about us. Then that is where our validation and our identity comes from, is knowing who we are in him and just spending more time with him.
Yeah, it's where that trust gets built, when you give God that chance. You know, you say, God, I want you to come into this area of my
Yeah.
life. That gives him the opportunity to heal and restore and bring life back into your
Yes.
situations. God is not a dictator. He does not come in and override your free will. He
Yeah.
made us free moral agents. So if we tell him to back up, he's going to back up.
Yeah.
If we say, I don't want you in my life, he'll respect that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we forget that. We think that if God loves us, he would just jump in and fix the situation. That's not true. If he just jumped in and fixed that situation, he would be a dictator and a controller. And then what would be the purpose of salvation and the choosing of it? If he wanted to just jump in and fix everything, he'd make everybody a Christian. He'd make everything perfect.
Yeah.
But he can't do that. He gave us a free will because he wants our heart.
Yeah.
He's after our heart. And the only way he can have that is if we willingly choose him.
Yeah.
And say, God, I may not understand things that happened, but I want to have you in my life. I want to give you that opportunity. And giving him that chance to heal and restore. I told God that after I told him to just get out of my life, I knew I had to make a new choice and say, come back in. Or he wasn't going to just jump in and fix things.
Right.
He's not going to do that.
Well, I walked a very similar road as far as just experience that restoration because like you had talked about in previous videos, you had a prayer and you felt the peace of God just in that room that night. I had prayed a similar prayer. I was just at my wit's end after the divorce and I had just made a mess of my life. I'm in and out of bad relationships. And then I got to this failed marriage, a place that I never thought I had been in. And it was in that moment when I just relinquished my own control and said, Lord, I have missed it so bad. I've made all these mistakes, but if you can still use my life, I'm available. And it was that heart posture change that he's not looking for perfect people. He's looking for people that are available and saying, okay, I'm willing, you know. And that's when that restoration took place almost overnight. He started bringing people into my life that spoke life into me and started lifting me up. He started bringing just different situations across my path that would remind me of my value in him and how much he sees me and my worth. And it was almost overnight that he took it and just completely started transforming my life from the inside out.
Well, he loves to do that. I mean, God can do some really big transformations quickly. I think sometimes we really think that's not possible, but it is. He did some things very quickly, but then there's other parts where it is a journey. You know, the process of redemption and situations turning around, some things are quick, depending on what the situation is, and some things take time. I mean, I remember just praying for just healing and restoration, not over my life, but my family. And that took 10 years for several different aspects for things to just really heal and just turn around and for the relationships to be mended again and to see God just work. It took time. So not everything is an overnight thing. Some things are, but there's some things that take time and just being okay with the process. I think sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to fail or permission to turn around or for things to get better. We just have to have it happen in such a short window that if it doesn't, we're like, well, nothing happened. Well, God, you didn't restore this. You didn't do anything about that. Well, there's factors involved. There's people's will. There's situations. We have to keep that in mind that when God is restoring things, and if there's somebody a part of that restoration, or even our own hangups and our own soul ties, that takes time. And giving God the permission and the freedom to take that time with us and giving ourselves that chance to go through that process and forgive ourselves of the past mistakes. That's part of restoration is, okay, you know what? I forgive Angie, you know, I forgive Jackie. You give yourself the right to forgive. And I think sometimes we're so quick to do it for maybe for others, but then we won't forgive ourselves because we're so harsh on ourselves. We made a previous statement in the past video that we love Lynette Lewis. She made a statement saying, if, you know, how you talk to yourself, you know, say it's really negative. And she's saying, if you talk to your friends that way, how many friends would you have? And I remember when she said that, I was thinking, I would have none. I was like, because I'm so hard on myself, so hard. And I think it's just because of performance mentality. I mean, my dad's wired that way. He shared about that. I know you're wired that way. And I'm like, I'd have no friends. I'd be sitting in a corner all by myself, crying myself to sleep, which I have done. But anyways, that's another story. But just, I would be. And I just remember God taking me through this process when I was really insecure. And he would have me go in front of a mirror. This sounds really nerdy. I'm just going to put that out there. But it's what he did. He'd go in front of that mirror and say, Angie, you're beautiful. And I remember thinking, you're a liar. Like, God, no, I'm not. Because I had just thought I was absolutely ugly, didn't like myself. really low self-esteem, had so much just issues going on, and I couldn't say it. I was like, you're a liar. You know you're lying. You take your makeup off. You don't look that way. I had all these thoughts in my head. It's true. I know I look different. I'm like, so does every other woman. But anyway, I couldn't get past it. And I remember God dealing with me for months. Say you're beautiful. Say you love yourself. And I was like, I am lying. And I would do it because I'm fine, out of obedience. I'll say I love myself. I'll say I'm pretty. I was like, you were the biggest liar that walked the earth. All those thoughts were in my head. But over time, it was so funny. The more I would say it, and he would say, okay, now say something, 5 things you like about yourself. It was like God was just working through natural things to undo lies I believed about myself, soul ties, maybe from past things that people said that were hurtful, that put me in such a bondage and a prison. And God was going through and undoing that. He was going through and just reprogramming how I viewed myself. And that was a part of the redemption process.
Yes. And I love that. Well, see, the Bible talks about his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. His ways are higher than our ways. So when he was having you say those things over yourself, it's elevating the way you see yourself and your value and your worth. Yeah. And it's the same thing with what he wants to do as restoration in our lives. It's so far above our expectations. When we think of restoration and the level to which things are restored in, our human nature, our definition for that is just back to its original form, which, I mean, is honestly, it's good enough, right? But God's definition of restoration is far exceeding above that. So not just bringing you back to an original place, but elevating you so far to where you ever imagine to think of going. And I really love Job 42 for that, because you see Job in the Bible, he lost so much. Yeah. But yet in Job 42, it talks about the Lord restored to him his fortunes. He gave him a new family. He got kids out of it. I mean, he just blessed the man. And it says at the very end that Job had lived a full, abundant life. He left the earth having lived a full life. And yet he walked through some of the hardest tragedies.
It's true.
But that's where we have to keep in mind that it's the enemy that tries to steal, kill, and destroy.
Oh, that's so
but
true.
Jesus came so that you could have life and have it to the fullest. So I just love that because we have access to all of that provision in him, and the restoration he wants to provide in your life is far exceeding abundantly more than you could ever ask or think. That's why Ephesians 3:20, it's my favorite scripture for that reason, because he wants to exceed your wildest expectations and accomplish those things that he's promised you, those dreams and desires that he's placed in your heart. He wants to do far above more than you could have ever thought for yourself. So that's why I'm always encouraged not to settle for less than God's best, because his standards are always so much higher than we could ever have expected for our own selves that we would deserve.
Well, and his own standard of what's good and what's best is higher. So I love that God doesn't want you to settle for good enough. He wants you to raise your standard to having his best. Yeah. And making room for that. So when you choose to not settle for good enough, you are making room for his best. And I love that's how God does things. He does things first class. He does things just really well done. He doesn't care how many times you mess up or how many plan B's and C's he's got to keep creating. Right. He always has another opportunity, another chance, another plan to keep taking you on the course of redemption and favor, and continue to bless your life, improve it, and keep you on that journey of healing and growth. And I love that he doesn't get tired out. He doesn't get exhausted. Like, would you just stop doing the same dumb things over and over and over? He's not over here going to drop you like a hot rock like some of your friends do. Like, I can't deal with your drama anymore. I'm done.
That's
Peace.
Right.
You know, God doesn't think like that. Your drama is a lot. I'm going to go ahead and take a 5. Goodbye. Let me know when you're going to figure this out. He doesn't do things like that. He's like, let me get in the middle of your mess. Let me get in the middle of your insecurities, your trust issues, your walls that are up. I want to break those down. I want to help you because I know that I can take you places you've never been, and I can earn your trust. Just give me that opportunity.
Yeah, that's so good. It's never too late to ask God to step in and help restore things. He can always pick up those pieces.
It's never too late. I love that she said that. And we want to give you that opportunity. Just in your heart, wherever you're at, say, God, I want to give you this chance to prove yourself to me, restore things in my life, show me how much you love me, and come in. I'm inviting you in. He's just looking for that opportunity. that you give him. So if this was encouraging to you, if it was just something you needed to hear, a friend that needs to hear it, please, please, please like, subscribe to this channel. Let us know what you got out of this. And we want so bad to hear from you and just hear your thoughts, hear what you got out of it. And we appreciate your support. This has been such a fun journey of just sharing our hearts with you. And we definitely look forward to hearing from you soon. So thanks for tuning in.